Anyway, but without further ado, Ian.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? All right. Okay. This topic for me tonight is a little tongue-in-cheek because I honestly hate digital marketing and social media. I've been in it for a long time. I've seen it where, it all started as like really, fun and games and, connecting with people, meeting people that I would never meet in real life and actually communicating with them and learning from them or sharing ideas with them virtually and creating relationships to now where I feel like it's such a product and service focused thing in a lot of ways, more than what it used to be when when we all kind of got started. I think that a lot of people nowadays too that weren't there in the conception or at the early stages of let's say the Facebooks, the Google Pluses, the Instagrams and Twitters, are kind of like jumping into it now, like, oh, okay, what have I been missing? What have I been missing? I got to jump into it. So this talk, what I wanted to do was kind of tell you all about the things that I've learned over the years and what I know even up until now that'll help you in your journey and in your aspirations and your marketing aspirations to try to boost your brand, boost your products and services and boost your audience. Okay. So who am I? I've been with this WordPress community in Orlando since about 2012, I think, Lisa. I want to take a minute and actually thank the fact that I've been knowing a lot of these people that have been here, and because of this group, I've been able to really launch my business to a whole nother level. Not necessarily because I was coming here specifically looking for business, but just because of all the things that I've learned. There's been times that I've come here where I've just learned something new, specifically like just found a new plugin and I was like, oh, I can't wait to use this plugin and tell everybody about it. And then I get here and then somebody's talking about it. I was like, yeah, this plugin is trash. Don't ever use it. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. And so I've learned a lot from here, and I just wanted to take a second to really thank the fact that this is still around and all the organizers that are still here that still put in work with this. Now, I'm a father of 3 kids, a husband of about 14 years. I started Design Theory. This year will be 11 years. I just really love technology, and so when I got into it, it was kind of like second nature to me. When I was a kid, my first computer or electronic device that I can remember was a Tandy 1000. Anybody remember a Tandy? Those were awesome, man. It was just command prompts and what you programmed in, and so to see what things are now, it's just amazing. Now I started off saying how much I hate it, but honestly, if I can get a raise of hands, how many of you find yourself with any kind of fatigue with social media? That's more than what I thought it was going to be. I was really hoping I was going to be like one of the few, so that way I could feel bad about it and then jump back into it. Also, let me say this. As I'm going through these slides, stop me if you have any questions, because I'm going to try not to go too fast, but if there's anything that you want to get more clarification about or you have questions about, please let me know. That's what I'm here for. I want to be able to do that interactively, more of having a conversation than just talking at you about what's up here. One of the things that I don't like about social media is with all the networks that are out there, every couple of months there's something new that we have to get into. There's something new that we have to learn. There's something new, a way that now we have to do it this way. I've been used to posting like this and using these keywords and hashtags and links or whatever, and now I've got to do it this way. Forget the old way. Now it's got to be like this. Now my photos can't be this size. They got to be this size. Now my links can't be this long. They've got to be like this. Whatever, right? For me, because again, I've seen it for so long, it's just frustrating because it continues to change right when I get used to it. And so for those of you that are kind of just jumping into it right now, just be forewarned, it is going to continually change. Usually it's changing for the better to kind of streamline things, and sometimes they just change things just because they feel like it, it is what it is. But in order to be successful with it, you kind of have to stay with it. You kind of have to stay engaged, and you kind of have to use it on a regular basis. So that way, as these changes happen, you're not as shaken about it as those who may go into using social media like once every couple of weeks or every couple of months. So the focus for tonight, I want to focus on just these 4. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Hang on a second. I meant to, missing something here. Presenter notes. There we go. I want to just focus on these 4. How many people here are still very much using Facebook? Great. How many people are still very much using Instagram? There should be a lot more of you using Instagram. Who's using LinkedIn? Should be a lot more of you using LinkedIn as well. And then what about YouTube? Okay, good. Very interesting. These are the more popular ones that I'm going to talk about tonight. There are some other ones that are out there that I'm not going to get into. One of the ones I just want to say kind of like a shout out to is Twitter, because that was my favorite. But nowadays I feel like Twitter is more of like just pushing content than it is us using it. What we used to do is like connect and like sharing information, or just having conversations and going from there. Now it's more like, hey, here's my blog post. It's up there. It's automated. I'm not even paying attention to this. So some of the top websites that are out there right now, obviously Facebook being number 1. This I found from SimilarWeb. This was back in January, so not too old, but old enough. What I thought was interesting was, even though Facebook being number 1, with everything that's going on and what's been going on with Facebook, they still have an average visit duration of about 11 minutes that people spending their time on that site, right? Instagram, they rate it as number 2. Hey, how you doing? They rate it as number 2. They've got Twitter as number 3, even though Twitter has more time, people being on it more than Instagram, which is kind of weird, because to be honest, I myself spend more time on Instagram than Twitter. These other 2 are Russian social media sites. The VK one is almost like a direct rip of Instagram. I'm not going to get into those because I don't use them. Reddit is another one that I've been spending a lot more time on and found a much more engaging community on, which is weird for me, because when I first got into Reddit, how many people use Reddit? A lot more. You should. There's a lot of conversations that are actually happening in Reddit that are not happening, I would say, more openly in other platforms, which I thought was really interesting. And then, of course, there's the LinkedIns, the WhatsApps, Pinterest is still up there, and then Tumblr. RIP to Tumblr, because they just changed a couple of things about a month or so ago, and so I feel like they're about to drop off all the way as things continue to change and more people leave that platform over to other platforms like Reddit. So, has anybody heard the term appearance frequency? It's a new term that I've kind of fallen into, which essentially means that for me, it's more of the theory of posting on a regular basis and creating a routine for doing so. But not just posting for the sake of posting. Really what you should be focusing on is whenever you post on whatever network that you choose to, and we're going to get into which ones you should and how to use them, but as you choose to post on these networks, you really want to focus on how you're helping your community or how you're helping to add value to that platform. So everybody in here probably either has a product or service. For how you use that product or service and how it can help other people, that's more the focus of what it should be, and also talking about other products in your sector or in your industry, more so than you saying, hey, I've got a sale, hey, our product does this over our other or over the competition, or this product sucks, you should use ours. No, it's like, hey, I see I see this complaint about this, that, and the third. Here's how you could fix that if you just go and do this, and then you'll be all set, right? That's more where you're providing value, and that's where people find more genuine, like it's more of a genuine experience by providing value than it is just pushing your sales and content down people's throats, right? So for those of you that use these social media platforms, they say that you should be posting about a couple times a day, at the very least once a day. How many are posting more than 5 times a day? All right, hold your hand up because I want to ask you. So what platform are you using that you're posting for more than 5 times a day? Yeah, Instagram. Okay, you? Facebook.
But I'm an old white guy.
Are you posting on your wall or are you posting in groups?
Just on my wall.
On your wall.
I do post in Brizzy community and so a couple of tech places.
Okay, so a couple of groups, right? A couple of community groups, right? Okay, interesting.
And I'm posting in groups.
You're posting in groups on more than 5, or at least 5 times a day?
Yes.
Anybody else?
But for like Instagram, would that count like stories and posting on your
Yep.
Instagram?
Yep.
Yeah, and Twitter.
Okay, and Twitter. Okay, interesting. Anybody else? So the reason why I asked that, because I kind of want to gauge just for myself as well, what the climate is, what people are kind of doing, both from a macro level here in Orlando, right, with this close set group here. What happens when you post on a regular basis, or when you start to create some frequency, is very similar to like a TV show, right? And so if I know that the show has, you know, let's say it's on ABC, they're gonna have about 24 episodes for the season, and then the season's over, and then I've got a break, right? So same thing happens with social media. If you're posting, let's say on Instagram, and you're providing value, you're answering questions, or you're showing some creative content, the more that you do, the more that the people who are following you are going to start to, you know, feel like, hey, I need to make sure I see what this person is doing, because they posted yesterday, they've been posting for the last couple weeks or last couple months, and every time they do, they're encouraging, or they're saying something that I really need to follow, or they're, you know, talking about a problem that I've not seen anybody else talk about in such a way. And so it's refreshing for me to see that, because as they're scrolling, you know, we take out our phones, all we're doing is this, like, really quickly. So in order for you to kind of capture somebody's attention, they have to know that, okay, when I see this, I know that they're going to be saying something of value. I'm going to stop on them. Versus the others is like, oh, add so-and-so, so-and-so, add so-and-so. Oh, yes, yeah, they are talking to me, or they're talking about something that I care about. So that goes along with appearance frequency as well, okay? Understanding your target audience. This one's kind of hard. Because there's so many different platforms that are out there, finding out who your audience actually is, for me, I kind of rely on data. Some of these platforms do give you some level of data, and then some of them is kind of, how do you say, almost like a little bit of a mystery. It's not fully entailed. So like, if anybody's ever looked at Google Analytics, Google Analytics will tell you a whole bunch of information. But if you go on LinkedIn and look to see what how your metrics are doing with your posts, you're not really going to see too much in terms of like a demographic and who's really finding you and how they're finding you and how long it's been there and so on, right? So understanding your target audience is probably the one main thing. Every time I get questions for people that ask, you know, my clients or people that ask, they say, well, how do I get into this, right? How do I make the best use of my time? At the very, very beginning, if you're just jumping in, all of these are platforms you probably want to get into, okay? I would say that after a couple of months, if you're looking at your metrics, and again, we'll kind of talk about this in each platform a little bit in a second, but as you're looking at your metrics, you're going to want to decide and say, okay, well, if I'm getting 100 people that are seeing my content on Facebook, and I'm getting maybe 10 on Instagram, 3 on YouTube, and maybe 50 on LinkedIn, depending on what I'm creating, I may want to spend more time on Facebook. Now, at the beginning of Facebook, you could post something, and majority of the time, a lot of the people who are following you, and this is on the friend side, on the personal side, before the business side, they would see it. And so they would interact with you, they'd hit the like button, they'd comment, things like that. Nowadays, in order to really get to that audience, you kind of have to boost your posts. We're going to talk about boosting posts in a little bit here. But in order for you to kind of get in, you kind of have to pay to play in order for people to see your content, which is another reason why I kind of don't like the way that things are going. A lot of that has to do with marketers and the way that marketers are. We see something that, you know, makes sense. We see that there's a lot of people that are over here. Okay, if there's a lot of attention over here, what can we do to get a piece of that attention to drive people to buy this or to get to engage with this product or service? It's unfortunate, but that's just the way that, you know, it's just the way that it is. So Facebook. It's weird to me because despite all the negative press with Facebook, it's still like it's still like the #1 social media platform that's out there. They've got millions of daily users that are actively using the platform. And it doesn't help much that they own several other applications that are out there too, namely WhatsApp and Instagram. But still, at its core, there's still a bunch of people that are still using it, despite the fact that we understand that Facebook knows exactly what I'm doing right now, and they may even be listening. I don't know. But, you know, they are. But it's one of those things where it's like, even though I know that, I still use it. You know, it's unfortunate, but it is, because that's where my audience are. That's where part of my audience is, okay? There's a bunch of applications within Facebook at its core, before we even get into the other applications that they own, that they've I feel like they've kind of done a little, they've had some success with, but there's still a lot of growing pains within. How many people have started using Facebook Live? So Facebook kind of changed their drive in terms of content from just posting your text to posting photos to posting links to video. Video overall has been a growing sector for the past couple of years. I would say up until last year, I spent a lot of time myself just getting into vlogging. If you guys have heard what vlogging is, it's basically like video blogs where you're, kind of sharing your everyday life with your friends, with your customers or whatnot, right? Facebook Live is kind of a touch into that. If anybody's used Periscope before or Meerkat or whatever else that was out there that was kind of live on, within your hand. Facebook Live is the same thing. However, what they've done with Facebook Live is that as soon as you hit that button to say that you're going live, they send a notification out to everybody that is following you to say, hey, so-and-so just went live. Jeeden just went live. So if you're on the platform, you get this notification, you're kind of compelled a little bit to hit that. And to be honest, if you think about other social media platforms that are out there, there's really nobody else that's kind of promoting you or kind of like giving you an extra oomph when you're doing something like this, right? So for that reason, I do enjoy that and I do like it. I think that it is very, very, very much successful for that reason, and also because Facebook just continues to push more and more of us to go ahead and use that, right? So for those of you that aren't using Facebook Live, I would highly recommend that you do. However, before you jump out there and just start talking about what you're going to talk about, I would suggest that you get in the mirror and kind of practice what you're going to say. Because a lot of times what we do as a user, as we're scrolling and we see that you're live, if we can tell, especially now that it's been out for a while, we've seen a bunch of lives, if we can kind of tell that you don't really have it together and you're kind of bumbling and whatnot, because I'm doing this, I'm seeing it and it's like, they don't have it together, I'm out, I'm leaving. And so what you end up doing is you end up losing that live viewer, even though you may get them back on the replay, maybe, but you're losing that live viewer. So before you get out there and start using Facebook Live, I would say write down a script, write down your talking points, have it on a paper or whatnot if you have to have it on the side or whatnot, especially if you're just sitting down or if you're at a place where you're stationary. Take your time, practice that out, then go live. That way it's more polished. Now the other thing with this as well as everything else, you want to make sure that you have adequate lighting, you have a pretty good sound, you're not outdoors where there's traffic coming by, or there's kids running and yelling, or a baby in the background could happen to me at any moment whenever I'm at home with my, almost 2-year-old. Have yourself set up to where it's going to be an uninterrupted segment when you decide to get on. Length for Facebook Live could vary. I would say that you probably want to keep it under 10 minutes if you really have a lot to say, but you'd be surprised at how much you can get off within a couple of minutes, right? Now, the other thing with that is if you do decide to go live, kind of create a series with it. Say that you're going to go live, and which is also nice about this too, is that you can kind of schedule them. So if you're going to go live, let's say every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, then just go live every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Even if it's going to be for 5 to 10 minutes or maybe 5 minutes, go ahead and do that and schedule that, because then people who are following you and who are, again, starting to become accustomed to seeing your content are going to start to look forward to it. They're going to start to block off that time, very much how we block off time to catch up on shows and things like that. We're going to want to catch up on this and say, oh, they're going to be live. Let me jump in, clear my desk or whatever, have an open window so that way I can at least watch, if not listen. How many people are using or have a Facebook group that they manage themselves or that they own? Seriously, how many people? Okay. So Facebook groups, I think, are really, really beneficial. For those of you that could potentially have an audience that is more than 10 people, Facebook groups, I would say, is for you. Because they're coming to you, or they could be coming to you to kind of have questions and answer sessions, but also the people that are in the group are all like-minded, right? So let's say for us, giving an example for WordPress Orlando, we have a Facebook group that has, how many members are in the group, guys? I know there's a bunch, right? There's probably well over, is it over 1,000? Okay, so it's over 1,000 people that are in that group, right? With any given day that you could jump in there, if you have questions or you want to see what the conversations that were happening before, it's nice to have a place to go and kind of jump in real quick, find out what's going on, maybe ask a question, then get a notification when people are starting to respond. And because there's so many people that are in there, you're going to get you're probably going to get a quick response, if not get at least several responses that'll give you a really clear and concise idea of what you need to be doing going forward. So for those of you that have businesses or products or services, if you have a client base that's over 10, and you have the time to dedicate to creating a Facebook group to say maybe you're going to go on once a week and you're going to go live in there, or you're going to say, hey, between these times and these times, we're going to open it up. And instead of you having to send us emails, come on our Facebook group page between Thursdays between 1 and 3 o'clock, and we're going to answer all your questions. Or we're going to help give you consultation on this, that, and the third. You'd be surprised at how much people are going to enjoy that, because ideally, inherently, I think that we are people who just like to ask questions, but it's easier for us to ask questions in concert or at least with other people, so that it's like, okay, if I ask this question, I might think that it may be a little rudimentary or maybe fundamental, but then if I see like several other people right behind me say, yeah, or like that, it's like, okay, some validation. I'm not the only one that didn't know how to solve this issue or how to answer this question or how to get past this roadblock. Another thing that's happening within Facebook too is within Messenger is a lot of businesses are starting to use this to answer questions on the go, and they're also using quick replies. We'll talk about that in a second, but they're also using like auto chat features where you may not be available at the moment to answer a question, but you can plug in an auto chat app to kind of answer questions based on what people are asking or what they're saying within Facebook Messenger. I personally don't like the fact that they've split up a lot of these things into separate apps. Like you can have a separate app for Facebook groups or for managing your Facebook page. You can have a separate app for Messenger and then a separate app for Facebook entirely. I don't like that they segmented it where you used to all be together, but it does serve a purpose if you've kind of narrowed down your audience to a specific channel where you can be most effective to them. Okay? Now, some key tips from Facebook. One of the things for Facebook groups that I noticed a while ago was that typically with joining a group, if it's a closed group or an open group, a lot of times you just hit like the button to join group and then you're in. One of the cool things that I think that everybody should be doing if you have a Facebook group or thinking about starting one is to create entry questions. You can create up to 3 entry questions before someone's able to join your group. An entry question, one, for example, should be asking for an email address, because typically within Facebook, you're not going to be able to get their contact information other than maybe friending them if you wanted to take it to that level if you're just a business. But you're not going to get really much contact information that you can kind of keep for yourself. So if you're able to say, ask for their email address, maybe ask them for, 2 other things if you want to ask them, but you have up to 3. But at the very least, getting their email address, you can kind of add that to their mailing list. So you could say, hey, I just want to ask for your email just so we can keep in contact, just in case something happens with Facebook, or we have another offering that we want to do. We want to, get this to you first, or whatever that you may say to kind of show the value for that. It's a great way to kind of take that interaction and take that person and bring them into a platform that you have much more greater control. Okay. There's also an instant replay feature or instant reply feature within Facebook. We kind of talked about that a little bit for Facebook pages. Again, if you're a 1 or 2 man show, don't really have time to sit in front of your phone or computer to kind of answer questions, there is an option for you to say, as soon as someone hits your Facebook page and submits a question to you or submits a post to you or something like that, or notifications or a message to you, you can have a curated answer for them to say, hey, I'm not available right now, or we're not, available right now, but we'll get back to you within, 24 hours or within 4 hours or we're not available on this platform readily right now, but come visit us on our Slack channel. We're on there all the time. Or visit us on whatever, or shoot us an email here. We'll be able to get back to you sooner and answer your questions sooner, right? So utilize that because it's free and it's within those for Facebook pages. There's another feature that I noticed also just recently called a watch party. So for those of you that watch videos or that create videos on Facebook, the people that follow you can actually create their own little watch party. It's kind of like them getting together, like-minded people or people who consume your content, to be able to say, hey, we're all going to get together to watch this at the very, very same time. So like it's almost like them taking the webinar side of things and making it within Facebook. It's not the same exact way, but it kind of is in terms of congregating a bunch of people to watch your content at the very same time and then communicate with it. We'll see how long that lasts and how that takes off. It's fairly new to me, and it seems to be fairly new to the platform. Now, creating ads is also another way if you wanted to kind of branch to get some more awareness to your brand or products. Within the marketplace, I've been seeing that a lot more. Like a lot of times I jump from Craigslist to the marketplace just kind of see what people are selling locally, and then within that I'm seeing ads for different things left and right. So if you have a product or an actual physical product that you sell, it may be a good idea to go ahead and just create ads within the Facebook Marketplace, so that way that product shows up there, especially if it's within a certain nominal value that people within that platform are used to seeing and will probably look to buy. Last thing on here is paying to boost your posts. I kind of said it before. Facebook has become a pay-to-play system. I don't know if any of you have noticed where you could post something on Facebook now and you won't see as much engagement as you used to over the past several years. People that you're friends with, and you may have like hundreds of friends, only a segment of them are going to see that, which is really weird to me because like you have all of these friends. How they've made that algorithm to show up to say that only this subset of people that are following you or friends with you are going to see your content at any given basis, no matter what time you decide to post it, is interesting to me. Now, on the Facebook pages side, like if you have a brand page, it's even worse. Because marketers, we've gotten into the business now, and big brands have also gotten into the business now, they're starting to see where there's more attention there, and they've been seeing that, so they're starting to pull money away from traditional marketing, i.e. television commercial shows and radio shows and things like that, or radio, and putting it into Facebook because they know that the eyes are there. So for those of you that are out there that have these pages, I highly recommend that you get out there and start creating a budget to say, hey, we're going to start boosting our posts. Maybe it's $5 a week, maybe it's $10 a week, and so on. See what that engagement is, and then go back and look at your insights to see how that's helping. Not every post that you boost is going to be worth your while. Not every ad that you create is going to be worth your while. But as you create more and more of them, especially different ones, and you definitely want to speak to Chris and Sandy about doing A and B testing, because there's some things that are going to work for a certain segment of audience, and there's some things that are not going to work for that same segment. You have to be able to kind of create several different ads in certain different ways to be able to say, here's how we're really narrowing down to really affect or really catch the the attention of the people we really want to catch the attention for. Because for me, I don't know if anybody's kind of how many people have done ads in Facebook? Cool, a good amount of you. There's a lot of detail that you can pull out when you're going in to create an ad. When I say like detail, I mean it's like, and that's before even doing retargeting, to say that you're looking for somebody who makes a certain amount of income, lives within a certain zip code, within a certain area code, that has a certain education, that's worked at certain places, that's visited certain things, that likes certain products. I mean, it's bananas the type of how granular you can get to with finding out, how to target your specific audience. So it's worth the money, which is why, marketers kind of come into this. But at the same time, because they've come into it, where it used to be, $5 could probably last you a couple of days, now it may not last you a couple of hours, depending on what you're trying to attract. Any questions before I move on?
I heard you can actually target one person.
If you wanted to.
There's a lot of process.
Because of how granular you can get down and how specific you really want to get to. You really can. It's scary, especially for the retargeting side of things. So let's say, for example, like I'm on there, right? But then I went to go buy some shoes. I went to Academy Sports, and I was looking for a baseball bat. For some way, they know that I was over there. Whether it's through the, because I have location-based apps on my phone, and I was over there, and they're becoming much more accurate. So when you go into shopping plazas, instead of it saying, oh, I was at Colonial Plaza, or I was at Millennium Mall, no, I was at, the Apple Store, or I was at, Academy Sports, and so I'm probably in the market for something along the lines of sports. I can target right, you can target right down to me. So when I get back home and I'm on Facebook or I'm on whatever, and I'm like, oh wow, how did they know? They do. And if it's not because of what I have in my pocket, it's because of somebody that I know, that I communicate with, and because they have something, then they're even, it's even more so. So yes, Instagram. Because I'm a photographer by trade and hobby, I spend a lot more time here. However, I don't spend too much time here. I probably, on average per day, maybe spend about probably under 30 minutes. One of the things that I've noticed with Instagram is that over the past several months, for those of you that use it, they've noticed those of you that don't get in there as much, and those of you that get in there on a regular basis. if you've ever posted something, for those of you that use Instagram, if you've ever posted a picture or whatever that it was, right? Let's say picture. Probably immediately you're going to get 1 or 2 likes, depending if you use any hashtags, whatever text, you put a location. I don't care about any of that. Let's just down to the basic, right? If you've ever left the app, if you give it 5 minutes, you'll probably get another like, and you'll see a notification. That notification is to draw you back into the app, because when you get back into the app, you're going to see your timeline. And then you're going to have to click over to see the like and see who it was, and then that takes a second, that loads up. And then while you're there, it's like, oh, well, you know, let me go ahead and see what's going on my main timeline. Then you're there. So now you're back in 5 minutes after you were just in there. They do this over, I think it's about, I've noticed, because I've actually watched it, about a good 24 to 48 hours, where I've noticed there's usually a lot more likes on something, but they'll trickle that through my device over time, just to get me to keep coming back and seeing what's going on within the application again and again. And it's not by mistake. They're doing it on purpose, because they know that we have this fear of missing out. We have this, need to get gratified again, whatever that it is, right? They're pulling us back in. And it's crazy how it is, because it wasn't until maybe middle of last year I started to realize that, and I was like, oh, I'm sick of this. Like I've turned off my notifications. I don't care anymore. I'll go in there when I want to go in there. I don't want to have to be doing something and then see it. It's like, oh, I need to jump in there right now. I lose all my train of thought. That's just a personal, thing I just wanted to get out. But aside from that, it's still, to me, one of the biggest places that you're going to see a lot of, a large sector of different demographics collectively using the application. Whereas when we talked about Snapchat, last year or the past couple of years, it was more of like the younger kids, right? The 13 to 18-year-olds that were mostly on there. Us older adults weren't really on there, didn't really see the need for posting something and seeing it leave within 24 hours. It just wasn't my thing. And then, slowly I started to hear more and more about it. I felt like I was forced to get into it. Then they started doing geotagging and things like that, and that made sense for a little while. But then it was like, Facebook started to see it, and they couldn't buy it, and so they started to incorporate all this stuff into Instagram. So again, you still have like this huge demographic of people, from kids all the way through, let's say millennials, the Gen Xers, the baby boomers, and of course, the marketers. We're all there. Another quick question: who's using IGTV? One person.
Using what?
IGTV. Instagram television, right. So let me slow down for just a quick second. Guide me on time. I don't want to take too much time. Instagram TV, I think, just released a couple of months ago, if not a month or so ago. It wasn't that long ago that they've released it. Essentially, it's where they're taking long-form video and allowing you to be able to put that on this platform. Typically, with Facebook, you have about 1 to 3 minutes on your video posts, which I think it was like early last year where they started to let you put up to 10 posts. And if you want to do 10 video posts, you can do that, where people could just keep sliding, or you just do 10 posts of photos. You can do it that way as well. But what's interesting about this is that with Instagram TV now, they're coming after the YouTube demographic. So for those of us that get on YouTube to watch videos that are more long form, now you can kind of do that within Instagram. It's very, very early, but I kind of wanted to highlight that for you guys, because if you're not paying attention to it, this might be a good time for you to kind of get into that before you're playing catch up with it later on, when if it does actually catch up to be something to where a lot of people are starting to navigate to or move to try to put their content up. A really quick story about Instagram, and I'm going to talk about influencer marketing, but influencer marketing within Instagram is probably one of the biggest things that's happening with the space right now. There's a company called Sassy Jones. Does anybody know who Sassy Jones is? Wow. Okay. So I just learned about Sassy Jones probably about a month ago. They're a jewelry company, so they make like I don't want to say confection jewelry, but kind of like the jewelry that you can. It's not like like Swarovski jewelry or like beads and things like that. They have this thing that with the jewelry that they create that they have an online show that they put out every week that's just on Instagram. They have a DJ in the background, they have all this production and whatnot, and it's this thing where people look forward to every single week. And every week that they do it, they're promoting, or they're premiering new jewelry. And so they have a certain amount of it, and so the people that are watching, they're also people who kind of resell. So it's not really multi-level, but it kind of is. So like, in order for you to kind of be able to see the live show, you kind of have to get a link from someone to get to it or something like that. But in any case, what they're doing is they're selling things to a market where people are enjoying. What happens is that after they've sold a certain amount, they give you the ability for you to join their secret society. Their secret society has like a secret Facebook group, and then they do certain things in there, and then they have new products that they release to the secret society first, and then they allow other people, the regular people who come to the weekly shows, to then get the other items that didn't already sell out during the secret society people. So what they've done is, and I'm kind of paraphrasing a lot of this for time, but what they've done is that they've created a group of people that is thousands of people, to be honest, all across the world that are so engaged with them on a weekly basis to see what they have. And a lot of this stuff, which is funny, a lot of this stuff, if you were to look for it in other markets, you probably could find it and may find it cheaper. And somebody actually complained about that within their group, and everybody else within the group flamed the person for complaining about it before even the person, before the person who owns the company even saw it. That's how much their tribe was so enthralled in their product, and it's all through social media. Okay, so influencer marketing. For those of you that want to kind of get into it, the best way that I could say, some of the things that I could say to kind of get into it would be to kind of stalk your influencer or influencers before you reach out to them. And what I mean by stalk them is kind of see what they're talking about. A lot of things that have been happening, especially on the YouTube spaces, that people are trying to put ads in front of people and trying to get people to do within video ads and things like that. And if you don't know what that person is talking about on a regular basis, you don't want them promoting your brand if it's not along the lines of what within your values of your brand. So stalk them to see what they say, see how often that they're talking or how often they're posting and things like that. And then make a decision about whether or not this is somebody that you want to kind of have to talk about your products. Not all influencers are right for you. Like I said, some influencers are great and they have a certain audience and a certain demographic. Just because they have a large audience and a certain demographic, that may not be the person that you want to have talk about your product, because it could come back at you the wrong way. It could be looked at the wrong way. So again, kind of stalk them and kind of see what their attitudes are and see what their deliveries are before you make a decision to kind of work with them. You need to also create an ideal marketing scenario, and it should be cohesive for both you and them. A lot of times with certain influencers, they have a marketing company that you have to go through before you can even get to them. So before you can even get your product in front of them, let's say you want to send them a free t-shirt or a free product or whatever, it still has to go through somebody else before it even gets to them. And so you kind of have to have that in mind. And also before, to kind of think about how you want them to talk about your product or service. Don't let them narrate that conversation for you, or don't let them get out there and do it for you, because they may not do it in a way that you feel is comfortable, and then by the time they've done it, it's too late and there's nothing you can do about it. It's done. Right? And last thing is, be ready for the best and worst case scenario. I've seen some things go viral because of influencers, and I've seen things go viral in a good way and in a bad way. In a good way would be, let's say you have a product and you get it in front of the right influencer, they post it at the right time, and they've got a great audience, and all of a sudden you've got thousands of orders and thousands of people coming to your website. Is your website ready for all that kind of traffic? Do you have the back end ready to take those kind of orders? Do you have the staff that's ready to kind of answer those questions or whatever it may be? That's the best kind of scenario, right? Worst kind of scenario would be you're not ready for it, and you get all these people that are complaining or that want to talk to you and kind of reach you, and they crash your website. You weren't ready for it. Your orders aren't ready. You didn't have enough to ship, and then now all of a sudden, because there's been stories about people who were taking people's money but then didn't have any product to ship, and then you end up being kind of like a black sheep of the internet, right? Quick story on being unique. I wish David was here, because he used to post a lot on Instagram with inspirational quotes. Those seem to do pretty well on Instagram. Also be humorous. Humor, like funny type of posts seem to do very, very well. They get shared a lot as well. They get reposted and things like that. Stories, which is what some of you were saying in here that you do use, that seems to be a big growing sector within Instagram. Essentially what it is kind of like creating a post that goes, just like Snapchat, it goes to a place where if they click on your profile, they'll see a little circle around your profile, and then they just keep watching different segments of what happened throughout your day. So for those of you that create, it would be a really good idea if you kind of like document your creative process. So like, okay, here I am about to get started, here's a midway, here's the end result, and then here I am delivering this or whatever, here I am showcasing this or whatever. Those are like 4 or 5 different posts right there for your story, and that does really, really well in the algorithm for Instagram when it comes to stories. But you also have to be very, very consistent with it. Okay, it's not something that you want to jump into once a week. You want to kind of try to do this every day, if at all, if you can. Lastly, on this is curiosity. How many of you guys have seen the Fire Festival documentary? How many of you know what the Fire Festival is?
The what?
The Fire Festival.
Oh, yeah.
So about a year ago, there was an event that was created, and I'm going to kind of narrow this, bring this thing down. But about a year ago, there was a music festival that was created, and a lot of the buzz was created within social media. They got influencers, they got marketing agencies, they got a whole bunch of people involved. And what they did was they put up a lot of these orange boxes. I don't know if this is orange, but it is orange. They put a lot of these orange boxes. So like all of a sudden, all over social media, we were just seeing these orange boxes, and they tagged the main handle, which was the Fire Festival. And so all of a sudden, everybody's like, what is this? What is this? What is this? So everybody jumped in, figured out, okay, this is a music festival, and all of a sudden, all this buzz was about it. Now it was like this hot thing that we had to go to. Long story short, it ended up being something that took a lot of people's money and never actually happened. Had it happened, it probably would have been really, really cool, but the story about how it didn't happen is really, really interesting. There's 2 documentaries that got put out, one that's on Hulu and one that's on Netflix. I highly recommend you watch them both. Start with the Hulu one because it gives you a good backstory on Billy, I think his name is McFarlane or Billy something, the guy who created the Fire Festival, and how his mindset was and how he was able to kind of get people to see his vision and get behind his vision and send him a whole bunch of money. The thing about creating curiosity on social media is just that, is giving this allure to something that I may be missing. So it's like, what about this product that's different from this product that I'm familiar with already? How is this going to make my life better? How is this different? Why is this out here? Create that curiosity. If you're able to create it in such a good way, you're actually going to drive a lot more people to you in a more organic way without even having to pay for it. But then you kind of, again, still have to stay consistent with it, right? But that seems to help, seems to be one of the greatest things I've seen from social media was the Fire Festival. So by all means, watch that documentary when you get a chance. Okay, really quick. So LinkedIn. I've seen a lot change over the past year with LinkedIn. They've bought a lot of companies, but they've also shifted their focus to video. Have you guys seen what we call as talking head videos on LinkedIn, where it's like people that they just have their phones and they're just talking into their phone? Anybody seen those? So those are moving really, really well. Because they're becoming more and more popular, and they're less curated, or they're less staged, if you will. They're very, very natural. So it could be like you just sitting at your desk and you just had an idea about something, and you think that a lot of people who are following you on LinkedIn would benefit from it. Just jump on there, grab your phone, hit the record button. And what's cool about this, you don't have to necessarily go live, but you can just hit the button, record on your phone, do however many takes that it takes you, and then take that video and then go ahead and post it. Don't really have to do much to it other than that. You don't have to necessarily add any stickers. They have these options of adding stickers and things like that. Don't worry about those gimmicks. Just kind of put it out there if the content is good enough to kind of, answer the questions or be beneficial to your audience. They do have an option for you to look at your numbers in terms of your posts. So if you're posting videos, you see a certain metric, and if you post pictures, you see a different icon and metric. But they are giving you those metrics, but that's all you're getting. It's not like Facebook where you're getting insights and kind of really seeing where people have seen it and where they're coming from to kind of take advantage of that. You also have the ability to use hashtags within LinkedIn, and you also have the ability to follow hashtags on LinkedIn. I think is really beneficial. And so if you see a hashtag that maybe isn't being used as much, definitely jump in there. That's probably a good nugget to use. Flood that. and then be the person who has all the content or most of the content within that hashtag if you don't see a lot of people in there. And then for the ones that you do see a lot of people in, jump in there too. Follow that and then jump in there and see what the conversations that are happening and see how you can add value to those conversations. Groups were a big thing when I jumped into LinkedIn years ago. They're still out there. Depending on what they are, there could be a lot of activity within those groups, but it's a really great place for you to kind of really network. I got a lot of business from it when I was in there before. I see that it's still out there, but I think that what I'm seeing more so now that they've kind of shifted to is more of the video and the talking head stuff. Now with videos on LinkedIn, you don't really have to make them terribly long because, again, we're scrolling on this. I would say try to keep it down to 1 minute to 3 minutes at max. If it needs to be more, go ahead and create that long form, put it on YouTube, and then put the link in there and say, hey, visit my website for the full video, and embed it on your website or bring it back to YouTube to get the long form. But at the very least, answer the question immediately or give the value of what you're saying immediately. Don't lead into, a whole bunch of stuff before you finally get into it. No one has time for that anymore, especially when they're looking at it on their mobile. One of the really, really cool things I wanted to highlight is there's a prolonged lifespan when it comes to video and photo posts on LinkedIn. For me, I posted this video. This was an actual video I took at a golf course right before I was going to go in to go shoot this event. And that was over 2 weeks ago. And it got about 51 likes, 9 comments, and over 1,000 views. That video was probably no more than 3 minutes. I was amazed by that because even though that was over 2 weeks ago, I was still getting notifications, and this was real notifications from LinkedIn, not like what they're doing on Instagram, to this day of people that are still seeing it, still engaging with it, liking or commenting or whatever. I'm still getting that to this day, and that number is still climbing. Now, it's not a lot. I mean, again, it's just from my phone. And if you go on my LinkedIn page and see it, it's nothing crazy, but it was enough to where I was like, that was crazy. And I haven't posted on LinkedIn on my page in a long time. So for me to get that kind of traction after being dormant was amazing to me. Over a month ago, I was at the PGA show doing some work there, and I posted this photo and a little bit of a caption where I was talking about the show or whatnot. That one, that was over a month ago, and I've got over 1,200 views on that one. That's incredible to me for the lifespan. When you think about when you're posting on Facebook, typically that's there and gone within a couple of hours, maybe overnight. Instagram, kind of the same thing. LinkedIn, it's bananas. So if you're not putting a lot of your attention there, do that. They also have a paid platform and boosting and things like that over there too. Whole other conversation, we'll get into that later. Okay, really quick, YouTube. Quick tactics on that. Upload consistency. When I was getting on there and I was kind of playing around with it, I was trying to get to where I was doing it once a week, and I did that probably religiously for maybe about a month, and sometimes maybe it was 2 months at the most. It was really hard for me to kind of do that, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that I really wanted a polished end result. So I was doing a lot of post editing, I was doing a lot of graphics, or doing a lot of beginning stuff and end stuff, and that it weighed me down. So like a 10-minute video would take me probably several hours for me to create and for me to edit before I could actually put it out there. Now, I wanted to do it on a regular. I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I've been recording that I have yet to post because I just don't have the time to go out there and do it. However, when I did stop doing it, I got a lot of messages from people that were saying, hey, we miss seeing your videos with you and the kids, or we miss seeing videos on this and da-da-da. And it's great to hear. I just couldn't keep up with it. But if you get serious about it, I've seen some really good numbers start that Chris can tell you as well. I've seen some really good feedback come from that if you're able to do it. Your audio-visual quality doesn't necessarily have to be, top-notch, but because of this space, it should be something that's in a controlled environment, so that way you limit any background noise and you have adequate light. If you don't have any of the cool studio lights and things like that, sit in front of a window, sit maybe close to your back patio, open up the blinds, turn on all your lights, put a light right next to you as long as it's out of view, and it's still going to be a great production. But ideally, the thing that's most important is how relevant your topic is or what you're talking about in your video. Okay. Okay. Another thing, we talked about descriptive titles. That's always helpful. One thing I wanted to mention back here is that if you're looking for ideas on what to talk about or what to create content for on LinkedIn, if you want to ride the trend wave, there is a trend feature, or the trending link when you go into LinkedIn just underneath their home button. If you click on that, it'll show you what's actually trending for the time, and you can get into there and see what's going on. So if you need to tag along, if it's within a sector or industry that you're in, jump in there and create something that's along those same lines, and you'll ride that same wave for however long that wave rides for, okay? Descriptive title videos are always going to be your best friend, so try to, not keep them too long, but try to keep them exactly to what you're actually talking about. Use relevant tags as well. There's the little keyword thing at the bottom, or the tags at the bottom. Use those. I usually use about 5 to 7. I don't go crazy with it, but those also should be very relevant to the content that's in there. Your thumbnail is everything. If you're seeing what's going on with YouTube where people are creating really creative thumbnails, I'll show you some apps that you could use to kind of do that. They're using, they're pulling themselves out of the background, or they're using these big graphics next to them, or they're holding something and they're out of focus, but whatever they're holding to show you is the product is right in front of you. They're using big text, using loud colors, they're using their own borders. All these different things within the thumbnail can help, but try a bunch before you finally figure out what your style is going to be, and then you can keep going from there with that trend. We talked about jumping on the trend train. End cards are also a big thing. So at the end of your video, you take some extra time to kind of show some B-roll. There's these 2 blocks that you can put up to where if you have to have somebody jump into another video that is maybe assimilated to the video you're talking about, or maybe something else that's probably relative to the video you're talking about, you can kind of create your video and have those set up so that way people don't have to leave your channel. They can continue consuming more and more of your content. Some ideas would be to create a short series so let's say if you have something that you want to talk about that could probably take you about an hour, chop that down into 5 or 10 minute blocks, and then create a series of that, and then put all those out there. Make a playlist so that way people can just hit the playlist and just watch from one to the next until they're done. Binge the whole thing. For those of you that answer questions or provide value in that aspect, answer your question first, the first part of your video, and then go back and explain everything else. Because most of the time people were just looking for a quick answer, and then those of us that are looking for an explanation will get the quick answer, get satisfied, and then continue watching so that way we can see how you came to that and why that was relevant. Let me get right to the resources. For those of you that are out there that want to create graphics, there's an online source called Canva. It's very helpful, and it's free. You can create, it's online based. You can create graphics on there. I think they do have a premium side of it too, if you want to get a little bit more advanced with it. Adobe Spark and Adobe Spark Video is also 2 apps that you want to use. They have them both on the desktop as well as mobile. If you're looking for stock photos that you want to use for Instagram and things like that, and you want to just add some text over it, this is a great place to use it. Or if you want to do some videos to kind of use to kind of promote your brand or whatnot, Adobe Video is a great resource too. If you're creating maybe more long form video, I would highly suggest that you storyboard it. This app called Storyboarder is free. It's literally just like, it gives you this canvas that you can draw on and then create from scene to scene to scene, and then you can save that, export that, and then it's like, hey, we're going to go film this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, do that. Everybody's on the same page by using that app, so I like it. Pexels is another good place to find stock photos and stock videos. The video side, if you go to video.pexels.com, you'll get there. But there's stock videos that you can use and download and use with your media as well. And then lastly is Snapseed. I've been using this for many years before they got bought out by YouTube. It's a really good mobile application for doing quick edits of photos on your phone, as well as adding a whole bunch of other features within there too. I don't want to take up too much time. We're done at what time? We got to be out at 8:30?
Well, 7:30
is my cap, right? Oh, okay, so I'm there. Yeah. All right, great, fantastic. I will save the questions for after. I'll be here, come see me, and I'll help you with that. I do have, for those of you that took notes, I meant to say at the very beginning, I do have this on my website. If you go to jpDesignTheory.com, on my blog, you'll see the slides. They're all there, as well as the links that I had embedded in here. They're all up there as well. Just, you can click on that, and then it'll take you to those links to where you can get some more information about, especially on the Facebook side, for your pages and whatnot. All right. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.